G'day fellas and welcome to Forest Nothing. You might be wondering what the heck Forest Nothing is. Well, this is Forest Nothing. It is quite literally an entire map of forestry. Now, you might be familiar with this if you've ever played Age of Empires 2. It was very, very popular over there. And essentially what happens is people who are starting out in the game, they want a little bit of time just to get better at the game. They need a little bit more time to escape away from their enemies or stay away from their enemies. And so it became a really popular map. So we're going to be playing it. We're also going to be doing a tier list. We're going to just be discussing general things as well. So let's get into it. I'm going to queue up some villagers. I'm going to tell all my villagers to come out over here. We'll move our scout over there. I am up against an enemy. You can see that, well, you can't see it because I'm over there. But I assure you, I'm up against an enemy. And the idea, the goal of this is essentially I want to be able to kill my enemy. And how do I do that when the entire forest is like this? Well, it's not possible right now unless you're playing the Rus to actually really pose much of a threat because there's no gold mine, there's no stone mine. So imagine if you're playing like the Mongols on here, you're not going to have an Uvu. That's something to consider. But there are civilizations that are going to have more advantage than others. And so we're going to pick the Rus because they are actually a civilization that's got greater advantage over most of the other civilizations, and that's because of their hunting cabin. But I'm just going to be playing in the background. Don't really think of this as like a gameplay video because that's definitely not the case. It's more about discussion. As you guys know, N4C happened over the last couple of weeks. I actually just got back. I flew in last night, 10 o'clock. Right now it is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that is, I mean, I've had a great sleep. I've spent some time, just hanging out. And now it's back to videos, back to you guys. So we're going to start by trying to fit a house down because as you guys will see, we are population blocked. Now, this is on the pup as well. It's important to remember the pup has got a couple more things. Like you can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, I've got my production queue. So that is great to see. So now I'm going to be able to fit down that house. And we're going to get to it. Next up, probably going to be a farm. But yeah, anyway, there's been a fair bit of discussion around N4C. Apologies, it's taken me so long to get into it, but there's been a bit of a discussion going around N4C, a little bit of controversy. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I mean, if you want me to talk about it, then I encourage you leave a comment if you'd like to know sort of what my thoughts are, what my thinking is. It's probably going to be pretty bland stuff, though, I suspect. But we're going to be talking about balance as well. Now, N4C had a couple of in-house rules. So as an example, Delhi were always banned. That's not the case. I mean, everybody just banned the Delhi. There was a tech that the Delhi had that you couldn't use that was increasing the healing of their scholars. So that was one of the changes that was made internally. And I suspect all these balance changes are probably going to be moved over to the main client as well. They also made stone walls only buildable in the 3rd age instead of the 2nd age. And they also made it so that your stone towers, you can't make them at all. Just because they're very, very strong. So I suspect that we're going to start to see those changes as well in Age of Empires 4. I want to get this. I want to get this farm right here, perfect. So a lot of this video is going to be caveated with the fact that we're discussing about N4C here, and it's got a separate set of rules. So this doesn't typically apply to your ladder games. It's not going to apply. Why have I got so many idols? Did I not click you guys on a tree? I swear I clicked you guys on a tree. Why have I got so many idols? Look at this. What's going on, fellas? You got to wake up. Maybe I'm just not very good at clicking. Maybe I got to fix that up. All right, we're going to drop that down. We're also going to drop down a hunting cabin when we can get this bad boy up. Can't fit it in just yet. We need to work a bit more on chopping. Can you imagine a hunting cabin here? It's going to be ridiculous. So just to start off, I've got a couple of things already prepared. You can see I've got the template here for our tier maker. And I've also got the win rates. So this is the win rates thanks to AoE4 World. If you don't know that, if you don't know AoE4 World, I'll be leaving a link in the description over towards them. You can find out a little bit more, but it's got some great stuff there. For your statistics, that kind of stuff. So here we can see this is just your general ladder. Now this is players above the rating of, I think it's 1500. And you can see that at the moment, the win rate for Delhi, very high. Mongols 2nd. And then everybody else is just so well balanced. So great credit to the development team for getting it this well. Another interesting thing is look at pick rate. Pick rate for every single civilization is very high. And this is so hard to get. I mean, if you've ever played games with a lot of civilizations, there's diversity in the civs, but at the same time, people sort of stick to what they know. And so it's very difficult to get those pick rates so high. And they've done a great job in doing that. I'm going to make sure that I command these villagers to move over onto the nearest trees. Got an idle villager here. Let's fix that bad boy up. I haven't actually got my hotkeys from the normal game because we are in the pup. So that's the first thing to say. Now you can see that English, the win rate's quite low. So unfortunately, not the strongest. Definitely need a bit of a buff. Delhi, very strong. Now, this is on the ladder. Now, it is mirrored somewhat in N4C, so we'll talk about N4C here as well. So you can see Delhi at the end, 62% win rate. Now, they were only picked 8 times, and the reason why is because they were banned out so much. So in N4C, in the first day, I think we saw Mongols and Delhi banned, but the Mongols quickly fell down, and the Delhi just really started getting through, and we saw just Delhi seem to overtake with regard to the bans, and it was just for the rest of the tournament. I mean, we also did see a bit of a meme ban, Abbasid getting thrown out there. So when it comes to talking about like how we're going to do this, how we're going to do a tier list, and I'm sure like I know a lot of you guys will probably be sitting there, 46 gold a minute, not too bad. Do we get our wheelbarrow? I don't even know if is wheelbarrow worth it. You know, it's probably not worth it. Oh, you know what we need to get? We need to get a fucking lumber camp, bro. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be the bee's knees in here. Get over here. Everybody get over here. Villagers get over here. So I think the big thing is explaining to you guys how I want to do this, because it's largely going to be looking at N4C, but keep in mind that N4C is going to be moved or transitioned over to the main stage, I would suspect, or the main patch, the changes that were made in there. I suspect the developers are probably going to be wanting to keep that in line, just because of how good the quality of the games were in N4C. It was just absolutely amazing to witness games that were that high quality. So the big thing is going to be that Delhi, so I want to consider ban rate is important, but the most important thing is for when players actually want to play the civilizations and on what maps they want to play them on. So a lot of you guys would have seen that Chinese early on were actually doing very well. They're more of a specialist pick. You wouldn't pick China, you know, on every map. You would pick China on only a few maps and only in certain situations when your enemy doesn't have Holy Roman Empire. There's a whole lot of metagaming, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but I just want you to remember that we're not going to be focusing purely on win rate. We're going to be focusing on pick rate as well as win rate and sort of meshing it all together. So without further ado, let's get through to it. We're at, how long through? 7 minutes into the video, and we're just only talking about, or just only getting started now. We'll also make sure that we get our forestry upgrade. We've got to get a house down as well. Got to get another house. We're going to get these bad boys chopping down. There's a house spot right there. So what I want to talk about with, so one of the things, let's just get into the tier list. Tier list, no surprise, Delhi S tier. Now, these guys are the only civilization that is actually going to be here in this S tier. And that is because they have become such a dominant civilization in the current meta that I don't really need to discuss it, but I'll just give you guys a couple pointers. They age up, okay? And already they are at a bonus over their enemy in that they get their techs for free. At least their starting techs, they have received them for free. And then, so things like wheelbarrow, 4 minutes into the game, it's already there. That's really strong. If Delhi survives until 8 minutes, all of a sudden they've got their wood gathering, their food gathering, and their gold gathering for free, which is really good, okay? And then throw into that the fact that they can capture the sacred sites in the second age. You would normally look at that and you'd go, okay, but can they defend the sacred sites in the second age? Well, yeah, they can. And the reason why is because they've got those extra resources. They didn't have to spend any gold or food or wood on those upgrades. So it means that they are funneling them into units. And then throw into account the fact they've got efficient production. And they just synergize so incredibly well because you've got these scholars that are cheaper from the Dome of the Faith that are coming out into your production buildings. And you pump out units even faster, even faster. And just saying this now makes me want to go onto the ladder and play Delhi. Like I'm itching to play Delhi because I know how busted they are, and I know like I've just spent a week and a half watching the pros play it. So it's like I know all the ways to like sort of abuse them, I guess is probably the best way to say it. But they're just such a strong civilization in that regard. And so you build up this huge force in the second age. You take the whole 3 sacred sites, and then you basically get a free pass up to the third age, and it's just so difficult to catch up with you. There's so many other ways that you can get yourself back into the game, and you just counter every other civilization to counter the Delhi, it means that you really have to contest with their age 2, and there's almost no civilization that can do that. Honestly, if I was thinking about it, it would be like maybe the Mongols with mass archers, but even then, it's just so hard. Like, there's just no win condition against them. They're really, really strong. So Delhi, definitely S tier, the only civilization up in S tier. Next civilization going to be going with the Abbasid dynasty, a civilization that before, I think I put it in the last tier list in the D tier, maybe in the C tier, probably in the D tier. This civilization has really just come out of nowhere and has sort of like taken the game by storm. I've been really impressed watching a lot of Abbasid games develop. It's been absolutely awesome to watch. We're going to try and find a few more farm spaces in here. Oh, there's one. We got to try and max out our farms in here. So the Abbasid dynasty is this civilization that has really found a beautiful window, and I think this is credit to Don Ardi. He found this great build order with them, where essentially you get like an early wheelbarrow and you can go straight into a stable, and it just enables you to be very defensive. And the issue with the Abbasid dynasty is that no one can really stop them from getting a second town center up, and this is what makes them strong. Now, Delhi, on the other hand, why is Delhi the S tier and these guys are not? Well, Delhi, you have to answer the Delhi question. You have to go out onto the battlefield and fight against Delhi. Abbasid, it's the same, but essentially you have to try and stop them with their second town center, but they're able to get that second town center up, and they're able to find these beautiful timings. Now, this is largely credit to the tech, or the fact that they've got a civilization bonus, which allows them to create siege on the field. By having this, it means that you can take, like, let's say hypothetically this is our field. I mean, you can see down on the minimap. Essentially what would happen is you would need to like drop your siege workshop, you would need to train your siege, and then your siege would have to walk across the field. And think about it, like, you're collecting resources right now. Let's say you've got enough for a mangonel, you put it in the queue, it takes what, 40 seconds for it to come up, and then you have to march it across the field after you've waited that build time. Delhi just cut that shit out. They're like, I can go 2 town centers into Fast Castle, make some infantry, drop a mangonel on the other side of the map, and then kill you with it, while anyone else would still be waiting in base for the siege workshop to come up. And so it's a really advantageous, it's such a strong technology, and it's part of the reason why Delhi are so damn good at the moment. I think we want to drop a house here, and let's drop a farm there. We're going to keep adding farms, keep adding villages, and we're going to keep chopping through this forest. It's slow, but it's steady, and you know what they say about races. That's the most important factor. We need to make sure that we're all chopping in the same direction. You don't want to be chopping, I want to be chopping towards my enemy. It's about, you know, killing my enemy. Let's make sure that you guys all deliver. But we're looking pretty good at this stage. We're looking pretty good, pretty healthy. We're just going to keep adding in these farms. But yeah, that's really the Abbasid dynasty. So it can be very difficult. And players early in the tournament were kind of laughing about the Abbasid dynasty. But then people quickly realized, they're like, wait a minute, how do we beat the Abbasid dynasty if they just do, you know, they can, you don't have to rush the second town center. You just go for like a 7-minute second town center and you're still going to scale very well. So that's part of the reason why they are sitting up in this tier. When it came to win rate in the tournament, they finished relatively well, 55%. But the big thing here is their pick rate. Look at that pick rate, one of the highest in the tournaments, only beaten out by the Mongols. People wanted to play the Abbasid dynasty, and this is part of the reason why pick rate is really important, because it's about the player and it's about when do they want to play a civilization. Like, if you think about China, people aren't, well, with the exception of Lee Nock, coming into like games and being like, I'm going to pick China. Like, not many people are actually doing that. But yeah, with the Abbasid dynasty, people want to play the Abbasid dynasty because they know how strong it is. I think it's time that we drop down another one of these bad boys. Let's get you guys down there. So yeah, that's the Abbasid dynasty. But next civilization, going to be the Mongols. Now, this is a civilization that had a little bit of a fall throughout the tournament, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be looking at this and being like, Mongols, A tier, Keck dub, like, shouldn't it be in D tier? It had the lowest win rate through the tournament. And yes, that's true, but it also had a really high pick rate as well. And typically it was going up against civilizations that players were very comfortable with into the Mongols. So Mista was an example of this, where we saw him picking French into the Mongols very happily. And as a result, it really meant that the Mongols struggled against that, because people worked out quickly how to defend against the Mongol aggression. So really the story of the tournament was we saw early scouts into archers. Oh, we can age up. Ladies and gentlemen, we can age up. So let's get a little bit of room here for our age up. I'm going to try and chop down some of these trees, because we need to start working on our age up here. I'm going to stop putting down wood cutting buildings and whatnot. So people learn how to do it. So what you would do is, and Mister came up with this, he worked it out sort of behind the scenes and said, oh no, I want to play against Mongols with my French. School of cavalry down, and then you get the scouts out into the town center, you hide them, and then you drop down an archery range as soon as you age up, and just make 3 or 4 bows, enough to kill the spears, and then you siege down the towers with your scouts, and at the same time, you then want to go into professional scouts, so you're actually utilizing the scouts, then go fast castle behind it, and you're just so far ahead of the Mongol player. And we saw this matchup throughout the tournament, and it became very obvious that people realized, like, Mongols aren't the bee's knees anymore. You just can't pick Mongols willy-nilly. It used to be like, oh, I'll just pick Mongols on every map and I'll win. No, they're still good, but there are some matchups that they have difficulty with. You don't want to fight against, you know, Abbasid. You don't want to fight against China. And yeah, that was essentially it. So that's why they sit there. I think they're still a really strong civilization, especially on the ladder. I mean, we saw earlier from, I think it's this one here, you can see they still got 54% on the ladder. So they're still pretty darn strong. But when it comes to the tournament, people obviously worked out that, hold on a minute, I think there might be something here to the other civilizations. So that's why they sit there. Next civilization is going to be the HRE. Now, it's not going in the A tier. Now, we've still got other civs that I'm going to be putting in the A tier. HRE going to go in the B tier. Now, if we take a look at their pick rate, it's actually quite high. So we see that the pick rate, not that one, we want this one right here. So the pick rate is 28. So it's not quite the 38, but at the same time, it's not the 19 of the Chinese. It's not the 23 of the Rus. So it's kind of sitting middle of the pack. But players like to play this on a little bit more of a defensive map. And they like to play it in certain matchups. So it's a bit of a weird one in that it's not sort of like the Mongols or the Delhi in that you can just play it on every map into most matchups. It's more of a specialist civilization like China. And we'll talk more about China once we get to it. But I can tell you now, it has a lot more variability than the Chinese do. And partly because of its power. So I often talk about this as well. We call it like the Exodia. If you've ever played the card game Yu-Gi-Oh, they have this concept called what's it called? I'm drawing a blank here. Exodia, gosh. I just said it, Drongo, you dickhead. So Exodia is this card that, or it's basically like 5 cards, and if you get them in your hand, you play them and you just win the game. And it's just about collecting the cards. And I'm sure a lot of you guys will be like, that just doesn't make sense. So you collect 5 cards and you win the game. Yeah, but can you survive with holding 5 cards in your hand and with the deck that you've got? And so for the Holy Roman Empire, it's like the 3 legs of Exodia, as I like to call it. It is the relics. If you can get those 3 relics, you're good. 4th is the chess piece of Exodia, and that is the Palace of Swabia. Once you've assembled these 4 pieces, it is so impossible. It's so hard to stop you. Now, as long as you get up on an even footing, you're pretty much going to win every single game if you can get to this point. And that makes the Holy Roman Empire just such a strong civilization. And part of the reason, excuse me, the only reason I didn't mute that, normally I'd do that, but because I'm on camera, I'm like, I know you guys want to hear the burp, so I give you a little bit of the burp. Let's see if we can get that landmark in. You can see we can almost fit it in. And so this is really what Forest Nothing is all about. And I gotta say, I love this. I love having Forest Nothing in here. Do we stop making vills? Shit, Drongo. You gotta keep making vills, you dickhead. So yeah, I mean, this is what Forest Nothing is all about. It's about chilling out. It's about having a good time, about having a relaxing time, chopping through all these. I think we need to get ourselves, actually, no, we need to get that landmark down. Almost got enough space in here. I think we need to just work on this angle over here. Let's try and get a few more vills back there. So yeah, I mean, that's the Holy Roman Empire. They're a very strong civilization, but really typically you wouldn't see them on every map. You wouldn't see like a Holy Roman Empire on Arabia. They'd get punished very heavily there. So it definitely works well on these maps that they're able to close themselves off from the enemy and see a strong avenue to picking up those 3 relics. Pretty strong in the Second Age. Obviously, the Prelate is decent. Minework Palace, not the best landmark. Ark and Chapel, very, very strong though. But yeah, that's essentially it. It's a very good civilization on those maps where it's able to get up to the Second Age and be quite defensive. Next up, it's going to be the English. Now, a lot of people aren't particularly happy with how the English is performing. I'm one of those guys. I like the English a lot. I think they're a great defensive civilization, but in N4C, we saw them as a civilization that just wasn't cutting it. people enjoyed it in a fair few matchups on a couple of maps. I mean, there are a few maps that it actually makes sense. Like Altai is a really good English map, but even then we saw players starting to counterpick it. So one of the things that we would see is people picking Chinese into English on Altai. Lee Nock was a big fan of this, and people would often look to that and be like, I'm going to play my English on my Altai, and they're like, well, now you can't do it because Lee Nock Chinese, he knows how to counter it. And then other players started playing Chinese on Altai. It got to the point where we actually had a Chinese mirror. I'm pretty sure it was on Altai, and players were just real. I mean, there was a lot of Chinese mirrors actually in the tournament. I think there was 2, maybe 3 that we saw. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe it was just 1. But it got to the point where like people were very happy to play the Chinese on Altai, not happy to play the English because there was just a window there that was very easily closed by the Chinese. And so in English at the moment, people I think are still learning with them exactly the best way to play it. I'm definitely of the opinion that it seems to me, oh my God, we can already go to age 3. Look at this. Holy shit. I haven't even like done any trades. So the English to me really seem like a civilization that can go for a second town center. And I think that the meta is definitely going to be trending towards that as well. I expect that we're probably going to see more and more players going for that, but they just really haven't sort of discovered that. And that's mainly because the English town center, it's such a badass. Like the arrows that get fired out of that is like a freaking Gatling gun. But at the moment, I mean, it sits in the C tier. I can say right now there's no civs below the English in the D tier, so this is the lowest that we're going to be getting, but there are civilizations that sit below the English in this C tier. It is the Chinese. So the Chinese as a civilization below the English, even though they had the highest win rate in the tournament. I remember talking with a couple of the guys. When I say a couple of the guys, I mean, I think I was sitting down with like Marine Lord and Viper, and I'm like, and I was sort of throwing out the idea of a tier list, and you know, how do you justify putting China in the bottom tier of your tier list when they had, at the time, the highest win rate in the tournament? How do you justify that? How can you possibly say that, yeah, they're the lowest tier? And I think Marine Lord very appropriately said, well, they are a specialist pick. They are a civilization that you can't play them against the Holy Roman Empire. If you do, you're probably going to lose almost guaranteed. Ironically, he did actually play the Chinese into the Holy Roman Empire on Altai and won. So impressive stuff from him there. But it really, like, I think the fact that China, it's only available on a few maps, kind of hinders it from being a top tier civilization. Obviously, they like to fight H2 now. We've seen China, and I think that there's still a lot to be discovered with Chinese H2, especially going fast dynasty. But yeah, at the moment, they sit in this C tier just because they don't have a lot of variability on, on these open maps. So that's going to be the big thing. So your Lipanese, High View, Dry Arabia, which are becoming more and more, not more and more popular. I mean, they're already very popular in the map pool, but they are going to be, you know, it's going to continue to be a struggle in that situation. Let's see if we can get ourselves I want to drop one of these bad boys down right there, and then I'm going to drop down a farm here and a farm here. So you can see it's like, it's a bit weird how like this game plays out, but you guys are working it out, right? Let's get our upgrades now. Why not? Let's just do it. I mean, wheelbarrow is probably a bad idea here. Actually, no, maybe wheelbarrow is good. I think wheelbarrow is pretty good for wood chopping. Can we drop? Yeah, we can drop that down. Let's move these guys over here as well. I hope you guys are enjoying this. One of the things that I'm really happy about with Forest Nothing coming to Age of Empires 4 is that in Age of Empires 2, I watched a fair few videos from the creators over there, and they would love to talk about a topic, and it kind of sucks. Like, you guys have seen those videos. I just sit in front of I don't even sit in front of the camera. I just sit in front of this, and I talk about it, and it's not that engaging, whereas at least this, it's like, I'm having fun. You know, I'm at least playing. Even though I'm not really playing to a goal, I'm still playing. You know what I mean? Like, it's decent. Are you chopping? Oh, no, you're not. You're farming. All right, that's fine. That's fine. You keep farming, girl. You keep doing your thing. Meanwhile, my chopper's on the front over here. I'm going to pull them all out over to this position. I got to keep commanding them to do that. But, yeah, it's so great having this. Forest Nothing. I just want to shout out to Corp. Or Kaup. I'm not sure exactly how I pronounce his name. But he's the one who made it. I'm sure there would have been someone else who made it in the event that, you know, Corp didn't. But, yeah, big shout out to him. So, yeah, that's the Chinese. Now we talk about the Rus. Rus are a bit of an interesting one. At the end of the tournament, the Rus actually had quite a high win rate. Now, that is because of Beastie Cutie. He is very, very competent on the Rus. I think players as well are learning, not learning necessarily, but mastering Rus. We actually saw in the grand finals, I think it was the first game, China versus Rus. China versus Rus? No, English versus Rus on Mongolian Heights. Beastie Cutie played the perfect game. Quite literally the perfect game. And I think this is largely about that map as well. I think the Rus are very strong on that map. You know what? I was going to say, we don't have a wooden fortress. And then I'm like, bro, I have 12k wood stacked up. Like, why do I need 20% more wood? Don't worry about it, Drongo. It's fine. Yeah, but we saw a beautiful play from Beastie Cutie where he did a very methodical play style where he just pushed up with castles or keeps. Yeah, castles, Springalds, Mangonels, Bombards, and just killed Lenok. There was no discussion about it. Spoiler alert. I probably should have said that for those who haven't watched it yet. Spoiler alert. I've got a bit of an itchy nose. My fan behind me is blowing, and let me get it out of there. Gosh. So I think the Rus, like the Chinese, like the Holy Roman Empire, a bit of like a specialist civilization, but at the same time, a civilization which it's got a bit more variability in its maps, so Highview in particular, and any hybrid they're very good on. Obviously, there's a lot of changes coming in with the pup as well for the Rus. Obviously, their docks, their fishing boats. I mean, we can talk about that in another video, which we probably will be doing after this one. This one will go up first, and then we'll talk about that after. But yeah, it's a civilization that, even though it's got quite a high win rate, it's very specific to the matches that it plays and the maps that it plays on. Not particularly strong on those open maps, not good on closed maps either. It's like hybrid and it's high Gaia maps. And that's essentially it. The win condition for the Rus at the moment just seems to be get Imperial. It used to be like go fast castle, but now even it seems like they can't do that. It just seems to be, if you want to win with the Rus, go for Imperial. Survive into Imperial and then push into the enemy's base. Because when it comes to Imperial, I don't think anybody can really beat the Rus. Actually, let me look at the civs here. Maybe the English, that would be it. But the Imperial civilizations, it's the Rus 100%. We're going to be doing another video on that, which civilization is the best in the late game. We'll be doing a tier list on that one and talking about that. But speaking of civilizations that aren't good in the late game, it's going to be your French. The last civilization that's here now, does it go in the D tier? No. Does it go in the C tier? No. Does it go in the S tier? No, it doesn't. It's going to go in the A tier. And I know that a lot of you guys would probably look at that and start scratching your head thinking A tier, Drongo. What's the go with that? How could you possibly be putting that into the A tier? How far have we gotten through this? So my enemy spawned like somewhere over here, and I'm not even halfway through yet, and we're at like 26 minutes. You can see like in Age of Empires 4, Age of Empires 3, which is where I come from, there used to be this concept of maps or treaty. Basically, there was like a 40-minute delay before you could attack your enemy, and then the treaty ends, and then you can finally attack your enemy. I feel like this is kind of like treaty, but like a much higher level, because you can imagine, right, like your enemy is probably cutting towards you as well. So you guys are both cutting towards each other, and at some point you got to start making units. I'm just going for my build order here is like cut through to my enemy, and eventually like kill him with villagers. We should probably get that technology. Let's get that, because we're going to be going ham in that regard. We could drop it down a second town center as well, but I don't know if it's worth it. We're just going to keep chopping. So yeah, with regard to the French were a civilization that was picked a lot. So if we go and take a look at the pick rate for them, you can see that the French have 36 picks. So it is the third highest, so 38, 37, 36. So they were picked in a lot of the series. People definitely happy to play the French on a lot of maps into a variety of matchups. It's a civilization that's always going to have a game plan, a win condition, and whether that is like outscaling in Age 2, whether that is killing enemy villages in Age 2, whether that's like a fast imp rush like we've seen on King of the Hill, where people just look to get the King's Palace, the Red Palace down. I apologize to all my English players out there. There's a lot of different ways that you can play them. And they're very flexible, but at the same time, they've got quite a, I mean, I say it's a low win rate, it's 50%. You just look at the Mongols though, and like largely it's because of the French. It's very interesting, like the fact that they're 50%, but they sit so far down the board. When it comes to how they're used on the ladder, the French at the moment, the second lowest win rate. But at the same time, remember, it's more about the pick rate in N4C and the way that they can be used. There'd probably be an argument to put them down in the B tier, and that's why they do sit as my last pick on A tier. But the thing is, like, there are just so many more situations that you could pick the French than you could pick the Holy Roman Empire, and you're happy to play them. Like right now, okay, let's say I'm picking French, and I go against like any of these three civs. I'm happy. I go against any of these 3 civs, I'm happy. I go against the deli. I'm like, oh, God, fucking lame deli picker. Wait, Drongo, didn't you just say earlier in the video that you're looking forward to going on the ladder and playing the deli? Interesting. But you guys get my point, right? Like, it is a civilization that... Hey, what are you guys doing? You're making a lumber camp and they're not doing anything. Wow, I just realized I can just make lumber camps everywhere. That's what I'm talking about there. Now we're pushing it. Push it to the limits. DMCA. So, let's get everybody over here. You guys are food choppers. You look like you're chopping food as well. Look at you. You're not, though. Let's get you over there. Yeah, we want to make sure everybody is coming out here and going to the right area. So, I don't actually know. Are we going to chop through this? We really got to, like, focus. Come on. We're getting to the end of the video here. We've got 1 civilization left in our tier list, the French. So, like, you're happy to play. There's no bad matchups as the French. There are civs that you would want to avoid, but there's not really a bad matchup as the French. And typically, it used to actually be the Mongols. You wouldn't want to play against the Mongols as the French. But now, with this new tech that people have discovered, it really helps out that matchup, and it makes it so that you're not even scared to play the Mongols. So I think it's a really solid civilization. If you're looking to play on the ladder, any map, you're going to be happy playing the French. Water, hybrid, land, open, closed, every single map you're happy to play the French. But at the same time, they're kind of like, they're not really a master of anything. Like the jack of all trades, a master of none. You know, it's that classic civilization at the moment. So that's what the tier list looks like. I mean, we just crawled into 30 minutes in game time, so I'm going to assume that we're pretty close to that on the video. That's essentially your tier list. That is your look at Forest Nothing. I would honestly love to keep sitting here all day and chopping through this forest, but I don't know whether you guys are going to watch it, so I'm probably going to... I'm going to call the video here, but at the same time... All right, I'm just going to rush down. We're gonna rush down the enemy. Like, I'm getting all my vills out over here. But yeah, like that's essentially the tier list. I'm gonna talk a little bit about N4C as well. Now, there's a couple of video ideas that people have thrown out to me. They've said, look, Drongo, we want your reaction to the whole drama that's been going on. For anybody who hasn't followed along with the drama, essentially it just revolves around some comments that Nilly made at the end of N4C and just sort of the direction of AoE 4. And so, look, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about it too much here, but I will just say that there is a fair bit of discussion about that in the community at the moment. So I think that that's something that could definitely be talked about, but at the same time, you know, I think it's important that we talk about it in a way that's positive, or not a way that's positive, a way that's constructive. I think that's really important. But other than that, I mean, just to talk a little bit about N4C, I mean, because right now the tier list is over. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. If you came here for the tier list, then you can head home. If you want to come chill out with me and watch more Forest Nothing, then we're doing the right thing, or you're doing the right thing, rather. So N4C, I mean, just to talk a little about my experiences there. What an experience that was. That was my first LAN event that I've ever been to as a caster. It is my first LAN event, full stop, when it comes to the international scene or the international community. It was an amazing experience. I honestly can't talk about how amazing it was. From the very first day that I got in there, it was seamless. The management behind the scenes was absolutely perfect. The quality was amazing. A huge shout out to Overlay Guy. So if you guys are unfamiliar with the overlay that happened, or that N4C had, it was created by a guy whose name is Felix, but is affectionately known as Overlay Guy, just because of the overlays that he's done. He's worked on overlays in the past for Age of Empires 2, my understanding is, as well as like a whole bunch of other games. And you know what? We can probably just get all of our food vills. Everybody to the front! Everybody to the front! Everybody is going to come to the front and going to be working on our food. We've got our upgrade there. Perfect. Yeah, so he did a great job with that, and it was like the overlay was, it started out as like this very, I'm not going to say it was basic, it was like very complex from the beginning, but we continued to work on it up until the final day. Like even going into the final day, there were new changes to the overlay, and that's what I really love. Like it was just one of these things that kept evolving, and it kept getting better and better and better, and now it's at the point where it's like, I'm back home, I'm in Australia, I need to cast games, but I don't want to cast them without the overlay, because there's so many things that overlay gives you that as a viewer, like it's so hard to sit down halfway through a game and to know where everything is going. But that overlay just cuts all the hard work out. It's such a great overlay, and I really hope that the developers see that and go, okay, this is what we need, because 100% this is what we need. There's no two ways about it. But for me, yeah, N4C was just the time of my life. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for anything more. I've been a fan. I've been an RTS player in the community. You guys know I've been around. I played Total Annihilation back in 1999 when it came out with my dad. I played Dark Reign. I played the original StarCraft. I got Age of Empires 2. No, it was Age of Empires 1 out of a cereal box. And, you know, now I've just been a fan of the scene. Like, I used to watch Lee Knock back in 2010 when I was at Phillip Island. I specifically remember, like, having been to Phillip Island, watching the races, and then coming back to Inverloch, which is like a little city outside of Phillip Island, because that's where the accommodation was cheaper for us, because we were very poor back then. Didn't have a lot of money, and I remember just going on my phone and being like, okay, I gotta watch GOM TV, I gotta watch Lee Knock. I met Lee Knock, I casted Lee Knock, I had currywurst with Lee Knock. Like, it was such a great experience for me getting to meet all these players, and it was really just like, it was so amazing. And, you know, like other people in the scene as well, I got to meet Grubby, I got to meet Viper, two guys that I've looked up to with regard to content creation. I've looked up to Grubby for many years. I've watched his gameplay, and then Viper, you guys know I'm a huge fanboy of Viper. Getting to meet them, getting to cast with them, to see them in person, it was just absolutely amazing. And it was a dream. It was a dream come true for me, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But yeah, just to talk a little bit more about that, I mean, we all stayed at a hotel that was about 3 minutes walk away from the venue. The venue was hosted by GL, which is the clan. I think it's the clan guild, company, group. I mean, what do you call it? Like, it's the clan, right? Of Nilly. And so basically they ran out this giant venue, and they sit there and they've got it, and they use it for like their League of Legends team, and they've got like a whole bunch of other teams, and we got to use it for the week. And it was just this beautiful penthouse in Berlin, in a beautiful spot, like on the main street. There's a currywurst place right across the road. Very important. Got to have that currywurst close, which, by the way, I had the most amazing currywurst experiences in Berlin. Something I'll never forget. You know, as a big guy, I like to have, you know, good quality food experiences, and I didn't have there was no shortage of that. But yeah, we all got to stay in our own like hotel rooms. It was very quiet, very private. If you wanted to, you didn't have to come socialize, mingle, do anything like that. You could just like stay in your hotel room, come out for your game, and then go back to your hotel room. And there were players that did do that. But the majority of the people that were there did spend their time in sort of the chill area. It was this lovely area where we just got to sit down, we got to hang out, and we got to talk. And, you know, I use the word ironically all the time, vibe. I'm like, oh man, yeah, it's such a vibe. But like, it's so hard to use another word in, I hate it in 2022. Like, okay, let me just explain it. You've got all these like-minded people that are coming around enjoying a hobby that you enjoy as well. And not only is that hobby like your passion and has been something in your life that has existed for 15 years, but you're now, it's now a form of income for you. So there is really like, it has just grown to this amazing point, and then you're sitting down talking with those people. You've all got your own drinks there, and there was no shortage of drinks, whether you like Pepsi, Red Bull, or alcoholic drinks. There was constantly drinks. We had a chef on site, and you were just sitting down around there watching games on the big screen that were being casted live from the venue. It was just like it was my dream come true. I couldn't have asked for a better time. It was so much fun. I mean, behind the scenes, it was just a blast. We had sponsorships from Ankerkraut, who are a German spice provider, my understanding is, as well as from HelloFresh, who provided all the meal kits, the official meal kit provider of N4C. And it was amazing. We just had this S tier food constantly. It was just, I can't talk up how good it was. The production was amazing. There were a few production hitches that we had, but at the end of the day, like, it was just the most minor things. Like, it was like maybe the wrong camera at the wrong time and stuff like that. But you're always going to get that. That's the thing. Like, even in the news channels that are watched by millions and millions of people, they have production issues. So it's like, it's something that's always going to happen. By the way, look how many views I've got here, man. Like, this is wild. This is getting hot in here. We're going to have to pull out Nelly in a second. Like, we are going absolutely ham with our villager production and our tree cutting. I mean, we're going to get through this. Don't you worry, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to get through. I might actually just push them to here so that it goes idle. Do I need to get upgrades for my villagers? I don't think I do. Oh, by the way, how fucking good is that? Plus 25 down there. Yeah, so it was so good. Like, everybody there was nice. On scene, or like in person, absolutely no drama at all, no issues. I mean, you guys would have seen Marine Lord and De Muslim were bickering, but it's all in good fun, and I think that's what you got to remember. They even casted a game together, but it was just so hilarious. It never stopped. You know, Marine Lord just always referring to the fact that De Muslim is bald. Marine Lord being not the tallest man, was always brought to his attention by De Muslim that his height was smaller than the European average, I think was the best way that he said it. But yeah, it was just a very beautiful friendship, and I think for me, like, looking back on it, there was a lot of big highlights for N4C. I got to meet a huge amount of people that I have that I played with for a long time, that I've looked up to for a long time, that I have watched for a long time. I got to meet Dave in person as well. That was absolutely awesome. Meeting Nilly was amazing. But I mean, overall, the biggest takeaway for me and my experiences at N4C were just simply how seamless everything was. It was absolutely seamless. There was never a point in time where I was confused about what was happening, or confused about what I needed to do. The communication was always 100% on point about what is happening. And there was never a point where I was worried about, oh, do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? The only thing I will actually say, just with regard to the last day, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. We can save it for another time, another video. I'll bet you guys in a little bit there. I mean, we're almost through here. We're almost through. It looks like we're probably about 2/3 of the way through. I would hope. I just hope that it's like, I hope I don't swing and miss right now. I'm gonna really have to start chopping down. I think we just start doing like this as well. Like, you gotta get it in there nice and deep. Yeah. What was the thing I wanted to mention? So, I will say it. So I didn't realize, but at the end of every NAC, which is the Nilly Apartment Cup, Nilly gives like a speech, and this didn't really click for me. So just to give you guys like a bit of insight, I have autism. It's very slight autism. Like it mainly just. I'm not very good when it comes to social clues or social calls. So if someone's feeling uncomfortable, I might not recognize that. Or if someone wants me to do something, unless they explicitly ask me or like sometimes even reinforce me, I won't do it. And it kind of played in a little bit here. So I didn't realize that Nilly does like a final speech. And looking back on it, it kind of makes sense in N4C or in like Nilly's Apartment Cup that he would do that, right? Like, you've just had this big event. It's like 10 days long. You want to have like a goodbye speech. And it didn't click with me. And Nilly actually said, all right, well, thank you. Like at the end there, if you go back and watch the VOD on that last day after the winner was declared, he says, all right, well, you guys are excused. You don't need to be here anymore. Thank you for being here. And I actually said to Nilly, you know what? Like, no, I want to stay here. I want to be here. I even said, I want to make it awkward for you. And looking back on that, I definitely feel like a little bit of cringe at myself. You know how you guys will like watch things back from yourself, or just think about like, oh, when I was 12 years old, that time I asked Sally to go to the dance and she said no and the girls laughed at me. Like, you guys will have those moments, right, in your own life. Well, this is one for me. He specifically said like, hey, winner, Drongo, thank you for joining me, but now it's time for you guys to go. And I said, no, I want to stay. I want to make it awkward. And looking back on that, I wouldn't have done that. I would have gotten up. I would have taken the winner with me, and we would have let Nilly have his speech by himself there. So it was unfortunate that I did that. And looking back on it, I feel like I probably should have realized that Nilly needed an opportunity there to talk about the event and about how things went. And I didn't do that. So I feel like I let the team down in that regard. But then, I mean, looking back on it at the entire duration of the event, I feel like, you know what, I did pretty good. If that was the only thing that I can look back and sort of cringe at, then it wasn't a terrible event. I guess the other thing for me, I just realized, is my camera like slowly falling down? Are you guys slowly falling down? I thought I tightened you up, but it might be like slowly coming down. You know what, we'll leave it for now. Yeah, like, I didn't make any like bad references to like genocide. That was good. I think I mentioned Ukraine once. That was bad. That could have been bad. Like I think Nilly said something about vodka, and like obviously Russians are typically associated with vodka. Or, sorry, vodka is like typically associated with Russians, and I just remember thinking like, oh, chat might say something because we mentioned vodka and they might like bring up the Russian thing. So I was just like, yeah, only the like we would only want Ukrainian vodka, and I just like obviously immediately realized, okay, you shouldn't have said that, but like. I feel like at this point, like I'm almost vlogging to you guys, like giving you guys like a vlog, or yeah, like I don't know. I'm just kind of sharing with you guys sort of my thoughts in the process. But yeah, looking back on it, if that's the worst thing that could happen, like I feel like my performance wasn't too bad. Like overall, I think the performance from everybody was incredible. There was never a point in time where, you know, I suspect it would happen at an event. Like if somebody let the team down, you would be like, ooh, like, oh, that wasn't good. Like, you know, like, oh, that shouldn't have happened or something like that. But it never happened. Like everything was just absolutely perfect. Everyone's performance was 100% on point. Obviously, the elephant in the room is viewership numbers, and I don't want to talk about that here just because I don't think it's the right space to do it. If there is, like, if there's room for it and you guys want to see that or want to hear what my thoughts are about it, then definitely we can do it. But at the moment, I think it's important that would sort of have its own video. But yeah, like for the most part, I just want you guys to know that I have never had... That was the best time of my life. Like, okay, I haven't been married yet. I haven't had a child born yet. And I suspect when that happens, you know, then those will be the days. But for me, looking back on my life so far, my #1 highlight, it's definitely got to be N4C. I mean, it was just the culmination of so much of my life and, you know, hard work, dedication, addiction is like in there. You know, one of the things I said to my dad is like, I remember playing Age of Empires 3 up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, playing in the RTSL, and wait, can I get through down here? What's going on? Oh no, I can't get through. And whispering up late to my teammates, Braden and Bob, as we played in like the grand finals, the championship. And I remember, like, you know, who would have thought that would have ever come to something? You know, it's been decades that I've sort of been harvesting that, or not harvesting, but nurturing that sort of ability, and now we can now it's like coming to fruition, and I'm just very grateful to be in this position right now and to have this. So yeah, it was an incredible time. I probably haven't given you guys too much. I mean, I haven't shown you guys pictures or anything like that. I mean, the best outside of like of the hotel, I didn't really get to see too much. So I didn't get to go to the Brandenburg Gate. I didn't get to do any of the fun touristy stuff. Now, obviously, there's COVID as a possibility, and that was the thing that we looked to minimize. And so that meant that typically you're not going to be able to go outside the hotel unless you're going to the venue. Like we all tried to do that as best or as much as possible. And so it meant that I didn't get to see too much of the sights. If I get to have my time again, like let's say there's another event, I'm probably going to give myself like a week, maybe not a week after the event, because by the end of the event, like you kind of want to get back to home, you want to get back to your family, that sort of thing. You just want to get back on the ground. So I think I might go early again, because I went a couple days early this time, but I'll be honest with you guys, like I was preparing content. All the videos that you've seen before this one were prepared before I left. So I'm only coming back now. It's been like 2 weeks. Excuse me. Yeah, it was all like prepared content. I recorded it, and then I'm like, I'm just going to do the thumbnails when I'm in Berlin. It took me like 2 days, and I only got halfway through. And then we brought on Thumbnail Guy. So Thumbnail Guy, if you're watching 47 minutes through this video, what up? Welcome. You guys might have noticed a change to the thumbnails. We now have a Thumbnail Guy. So that's great. We've got a great relationship with him. Nilly actually hooked us up with Thumbnail Guy. So Thumbnail Guy, big shout out to you. You're doing God's work, mate. Keep it up. But yeah, other than that, I mean, my best experience in Berlin would have had to have been the currywurst. It was just absolutely awesome. For anybody unfamiliar with currywurst, so imagine like a sausage. You get a sausage, and I think they deep fried it or something. It's got like an outer layer to the sausage. It's just not like a normal sausage. And then they cut it up. They have like this weird little tong that they've got. They cut it up, and then they put curry powder on top, so they get like the curry stickers, and they go like all over it. And then they go and they put tomato sauce on it, And mayonnaise, I don't know why, but it's like, who would have thought that tomato and mayonnaise would have been such a deadly combo? But it is amazing. I'm gonna be requesting the missus does a lot more mayonnaise tomato sauce combinations, because that was bad. Hey, we get like a little bit of frame drops right here. What are we going on? 85 frames a second, 68. Kind of feels like it's falling down a little bit sometimes. Yeah, it's an amazing combination, and then they get the chips, and that's the good part. I mean, it's all good part, but then they like get the chips freshly out of the deep fryer, chuck those bad boys on there, and hey, there you go. There's your currywurst. Really cheap as well. It was like €6 or something for a currywurst, and it was like it's for a big guy like me, I'd probably need 2 currywursts to fill me up. So I think it's like really good on the go, or if you're hungry late at night, like you just go grab some currywurst. And I suspect that's probably what happens, because the currywurst we were going to was open to 5 a.m. and it was always the same little old German lady who would I would always walk in there and I'm always like, sorry, no German, only English. She's just speaking to me in German, and I'm like, all right, can I get 1 currywurst with chips? And she's like, okay, and just always speaking in German. She was beautiful. She was lovely. She was a great character. She also gave Logan free sausages. And I tell you what, anytime that guy's getting fed, that's a good time. Speaking of Logan, I mean, one of the things that I actually said to Grubby, like privately, was I've always wanted to get a dog as an adult, but I know how much work they can be. I know that you've got to care for them almost like a child, but you've also got to walk them. And like, you don't have to walk a child. I mean, if you don't want your child to turn out like this, you probably want to walk them. But like a dog, you have to walk. And I was not always on the fence, but I've wanted a dog. But the thing I've been thinking about is like, well, I'm a content creator, I'm a streamer. It means that I'm gonna have like this sort of yap in the background. But Logan, not once did he bark. He was there for like 6 days. He never barked once. The most sound he ever made was like a little bit of like a whine. But that's always fine. That's always just like that. Like maybe he's a bit hungry or, oh, we're through. Oh, we're through, ladies and gentlemen. Get there, get there, get there. Wait, can I just do this now? So anyway, to like give you guys a little bit of a, on that topic, it has emboldened me so much to see how well trained Logan was by Grubby, and how, like how well natured he was as a dog and his breed, that I'm like 100% gonna buy a dog. I say 100%. No, you know what? It's probably 100%. 100%. I'm buying a dog. It looks like we might be here, ladies and gentlemen. We finally made it through Forest Nothing. It is happening. It is happening. Forest Nothing. We are about to take down the landmark, the only landmark of our enemy. We can tell because we've got this up here. You know, when else would have it been useful? But yeah, I mean, Logan was just such a highlight of the event. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed the tier list, because that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We are victorious. We beat the intermediate AI. Feels good, man. Feels good. That's it from me. I'm not sure whether you guys agree with the tier list, but just remember, that's my opinion. That's my feelings, man. You probably got your own. I hope you guys enjoyed the little bit of an update, and I look forward to making a lot more content and seeing you guys around here. And of course, you can see we have won the game, and now we also get to witness the map. How many? If I click this villager, it should tell me how many lumber camps I've got. 56. There you go. 56 lumber camps. All right, fellas. Well, that was it. Catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.